Let's bring in Sheela. Sheela Patel. Sheela, do you want to come and open up your video? That should bring you then onto our screen. And here we are. We've had so far two different situations. Somebody coming from the London experience, somebody coming from the Eastern European experience. You come, of course, from the India experience, but also specifically from the what we can call the slum development sector of India, which of course is an incredibly sophisticated and highly developed cultural and social network of people that is often completely and utterly ignored by city planners. They pretend that those people are not there. And yet, if we look at the urban experience around the world now, it is that unmanaged, unstructured population which is actually having significant impacts on how we run cities and the challenges we face in cities and how we have to deal up with those challenges. So it is absolutely a pleasure to have you here, Sheela. Thank you very much again. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts, and then we will go to a roundtable discussion. So please, the floor is yours.
So thank you, David. This has been amazing, and both of them are like masterclasses, and you have to record them and share them extensively, because all cities in the world are in crisis, because we have legislation, financial strategies, everything that you have in the North, which we have learned through our colonization in the South, that is 19th century designed. And we're still struggling to stitch up that old strategy, and failing and not looking at the new trends that are emerging from what we're doing. So I just want to respond to the discussions on Ukraine. And I really want to say that all of us, with every single voice that we have to support the rights of communities and their networks to look at how they want to reconstruct their communities, their neighborhoods, their infrastructure locally. Because global institutions, however supportive and committed they are, have a very centralized, old-fashioned, technology-driven mechanisms by which investments are made. And they don't work for almost 60% of any population anywhere in the world. Because today we live in a world which has the same dichotomy globally as it has locally, is that 15% of the world's population owns 75% of assets. You do that for the cities, you do that for rural areas, you do it by continents, you do it by globally. Those percentages are not very different. And that speaks about the real fracturing of how we design our economies and what we celebrate as GDPs, which does not in any way reflect the local situation. So when you come into cities, I know the cities in the global south, so I will speak about them. And I speak out of an experience of having started working now for almost 40 years, starting in Mumbai in India, whose population is in the metropolitan area, it's 20 million. In Mumbai, which is called Greater Mumbai Municipal Corporation, it's 12 million. Is that we're dealing with over 60% of the population living illegally, informally, and invisibly in our cities, gradually getting, with great difficulty, different forms of legalization that serve our political masters. But the reality of the matter is that the whole global south is locked in these kinds of percentages, where our new city elite post our freedom from the colonists, whoever they were, find that the redistribution of land, the management of the economy that was left actually works for them. So you actually have 15 to 20% people owning all the land in the city. The city is growing, gulping down villages and rural lives and livelihoods. And now, although we are already 60% urban globally, we still have development assistance that truly believes that if you sort out things in the villages, you won't have expanded urbanization. But they don't look at the reality that climate crisis and disaster are all going to make this an exponential explosion where rural areas will get urbanized, urban areas will get expanded out of global crisis, national crisis, regional crisis, because when people are stressed out, they want to go somewhere where they feel safe. And as the World Bank has shown, nobody wants to go into refugee camps anymore. So they prefer to go into other cities, and most of the other cities, they end up in informal settlements. So I want to take the issue which Toby raised about communities. And I can tell you that my greatest inspiration in the last 40 years, not only in the work I do in India, but as the founder of an international network called Slum Dwellers International, we work in 30 countries in Asia and Africa. We find that the power of aggregating aspirations of people who the city considers invisible, a very powerful tool to make representation, to undertake aspirationally what you think is important to do, and in many ways, demand accountability of your governance structures. This is unfortunately a long and difficult process, and climate change and all the discussions that are there in the various situations of the COP and the city climate weeks and the regional climate weeks makes it even worse because, first of all, we are separating development and climate change right from the UN down. And it's very convenient to treat everything in silos. But the lives of people in cities are so interconnected and so diversely impacted by any singular impact that this kind of separation, while it's good for research and for making somebody sitting in Washington or London tick off a monitoring and evaluation tick box, is disastrous for local areas. And therefore, I think that is one of your wickedest problems, I would say, that people's lives bring all these things together. And we now have to talk about all development investment with a serious foundation of climate science and technology that demands transitions. So when you talk about cities and you talk about infrastructure, water-based sewer systems are so deeply entrenched in the imagination of every mayor, every technologist, every planner, that even after 20 years of knowing that we are going to be a water-scarce planet, we are still investing in water-based sewer treatment, which is destroying the entire periphery of cities because of the water it requires. We're not investing in new technology that doesn't require water, which treats fecal matter and urine as energy production systems. So I'm just giving that as an example. But what I really want to say right here is every single person who's on this call, if you believe in the power of collectives, there are 3 principles that I think we all need to push, regardless of how long it takes. The first one is identify what local communities want. You know, we all have this global architecture of what are the important things. We even take climate change and we separate mitigation, adaptation, loss and damage. You talk to insurance companies and they don't see preventive resilience production as the most critical element of dealing with loss and damage. But they would prefer to do everything after your house is broken than to do something to prevent that house from breaking down. So I think that global thinkers, global commitment to collective aspirations have to reconstitute how we design, define, and develop what is needed and who can do what to make that happen. At the moment, it is assumed that all research must be done by people who have got their PhDs, preferably in the global north. The money to do all this research comes from international philanthropy and northern governments and the World Bank, which is again a crazy institution where poor people are concerned. And you find that the solutions are all what we call the perpetual aspiration for a silver bullet. That's why we've never been able to deal with poverty, because that silver bullet goes straight into your forehead and kills you rather than nurtures you and supports you and develops you. And so one of the things that we have developed as a global network, and we support many social movements of urban and rural poor to say, create strong aspirational collective demands. Aggregate these demands in the form of data and research that cannot be dismissed or pushed aside. And find support, including with your organization, David, to legitimate new ways of defining and delivering investments. And I think that a lot of the basis of the wicked problems that you talk about, I love this word, I've been using it all the time, is not to assume that one single strategy is going to solve the world's problem. And that most of the intergenerational challenges that we face are not going to be sorted out because we have a deadline. You know, in the last year's stock taking, in the COP, we were told by many people in the UN that we haven't even achieved more than, we haven't even crossed 15% of the SDG, aspirations. We're already at 1.5 as far as the weather is concerned. So I think that creating very strong local solution developments that aggregate within regions, within countries, across different places, through a new web kind of way, has to be something that we do. We can't use old strategies to address present-day situations. And I think that partnerships with those who have been, you had, Toby had and you had the 3 E's. I have the 3 I's. Go for the invisible, illegal, and what was my third one? I forgot. I'll get it. I put it in the chat. But what we're saying is that a very large population can do amazing things for themselves if we just tweak what we do with them, that we don't patronize them and say we'll do it for you. And I think whether it's Ukraine, whether it's people who are affected by natural disasters, I think very soon all disasters will have to be put together, because we are living in a world where what's happening in Palestine and what's happening in Ukraine is not going to be so local anymore. We're moving into some strange space, and therefore we need to create very robust, local, interconnected communities. And we produce practices that we learn from each other. Because one of the things I have learned from poor women is show me that it works. Don't lecture me. Don't throw money at me. Don't pretend you're doing anything for me. Show me how it works. And if you bring women into it, they will do it. So thank you.
Sheila, what I said was that every time I listen to you, I finish off, I'm determined to live a better life as a human being. I really am. You inspire me to do that. Every time I'm with Toby, I'm determined to understand red wine better. I'm not sure why that is, that connection is there, but there you go. The thing about it is, Sheela, you are on the ground. I was reading something recently, I come in a paper, and he said that we used to have these global organizations, when they came into these areas, it was research by Land Rover.
Yes.
But now now it's research by helicopter. And they
drones.
Research by drones. But the idea that the empowerment has to be at the local level is not a new idea. I mean, that's been around for 40 years. And the idea that, I think, because what happens is basically people in nice suits, usually, from the educated north, in nice suits, who fly and stay in the Hilton Hotel, get into a Land Rover, go down. They don't want to give money to people who live there. They want to give money to organizations who claim to deliver something there. And that, of course, is an incredibly ineffective way of doing it. And also the people who are delivering the money don't actually know what to do. Speak to the person, if you want to know how the car park works, speak to the person running the car park. And if you want to know how the villages work, speak to the people in the village, because they're getting on with it.